White initiates with a standard pawn advance, maintaining dynamic balance and setting the stage for an open game. A solid start. Black mirrors White's move, reinforcing the central pawn structure and keeping the position equal. A symmetrical and solid response. White develops a knight towards the center. A dynamic move that maintains equality and prepares for further development. Black develops a knight, contesting the center and maintaining the delicate balance. A solid and accurate response. White fianchettos the bishop to the long diagonal. A thematic move in many openings. Maintaining the balance. Black challenges White's bishop, asking a question and maintaining the equality. A necessary move to clarify the bishop's status. White retreats the bishop, preserving its placement and keeping the position stable. A solid continuation. Black develops the knight to its natural square, increasing central influence and maintaining equality. A solid choice. White advances the d-pawn. An attempt to control the center, though slightly weakening the pawn structure. Black reinforces the center with a pawn move, maintaining equality and solidifying their position. White pushes the c-pawn, preparing for pawn breaks and solidifying the center. A solid positional move. Black prepares to fianchetto their bishop, aiming for kingside control and maintaining balance. White castles kingside, prioritizing king safety and completing early development. A standard and solid maneuver. Black fianchettos the bishop, achieving kingside control and maintaining equality. A well-placed piece. White repositions the rook to the central file, increasing its scope and maintaining a balanced position. Black advances the b-pawn, aiming to gain queenside space, but it creates a slight positional concession. White repositions the bishop, finding a more active diagonal and maintaining their slight advantage. Black castles kingside, securing their king and completing development. A logical and solid move. White develops the bishop too, pinning a potential piece and maintaining control, though it's a slight inaccuracy. Black challenges the bishop, forcing a decision and maintaining the dynamic balance. White retreats the bishop, maintaining its active placement and keeping the pressure. Black centralizes the queen, improving its position and maintaining the current dynamic. White develops the knight too, supporting central pawns and preparing for further maneuverability. Black places the knight on an active outpost, increasing pressure and maintaining balance. White retreats the knight too, a flexible move preparing for rerouting and maintaining a slight edge. Black pushes the g-pawn, expanding on the kingside but creating structural weaknesses. White repositions the bishop too, intensifying pressure on the kingside and maintaining their advantage. Black moves the knight too, a defensive maneuver but somewhat passive, allowing White to increase their advantage. White advances the a-pawn, a positional maneuver to gain space on the queenside, though it creates a slight imbalance. Black captures the knight, simplifying the position but conceding a positional disadvantage. White recaptures with the pawn, opening the h-file and consolidating their advantage. Black places the bishop on, blocking White's pawn advance but leading to a significant positional concession. White pushes the d-pawn, opening lines and creating strong central pressure, leveraging their advantage. Black advances the f-pawn, a move that weakens their king's safety and further solidifies White's advantage. White repositions the bishop too, increasing pressure on Black's position and maintaining their clear advantage. Black exchanges the bishop for White's, simplifying but not resolving their positional difficulties. White recaptures with the queen, centralizing the piece and maintaining the dominant advantage. Black repositions the queen, seeking to consolidate their position despite the disadvantage. White exchanges queens, simplifying to a winning endgame but giving back some advantage. Black recaptures the queen, accepting the endgame with a significant disadvantage. White develops the knight, aiming to improve its position and control key squares. Black places the rook on the b-file, increasing queenside activity, but it's a significant strategic error. White captures the pawn, opening lines but creating a less favorable pawn structure. Black recaptures, maintaining the pawn structure on the queenside. White advances the d-pawn, attempting to break through the center, though it concedes space. Black advances the h-pawn, gaining queenside space and activating their pawn structure. White moves the king to an unusual repositioning that simplifies the position but loses initiative. Black advances the g-pawn, expanding on the kingside, but it weakens their structure. White maneuvers the knight to an aggressive move threatening to infiltrate Black's position. Black develops the bishop, defending the kingside and maintaining the current tactical situation. White centralizes the knight, aiming for active squares and increasing pressure. Black retreats the knight, consolidating their position and preparing for future defense. White moves the king to a centralizing move for the endgame, maintaining pressure. Black activates the rook, initiating counterplay on the queenside. White captures the rook, simplifying the position and maintaining their significant advantage. Black recaptures with the pawn, reinforcing the queenside pawn structure. White places the rook on the first rank, aiming to control the file, but it's a significant misstep. Black moves the rook to, creating threats and taking advantage of White's misplacement. White centralizes the king, improving its activity in the endgame and maintaining control. Black advances the a-pawn. A pawn push that ultimately leads to a significant worsening of their position. White moves the king to a safe square, but this allows Black to gain initiative. A minor inaccuracy. Black checks the king with the rook, forcing a simplification that benefits White. White recaptures the rook, simplifying into a more favorable endgame. Black advances the pawn, creating a passed pawn but weakening the king's position. White captures the pawn, consolidating their advantage and simplifying the material. Black develops the bishop, aiming to control key squares and improve piece activity. White centralizes the king, increasing its influence in the endgame and maintaining the advantage. Black repositions the bishop, a passive move that doesn't improve their situation. White advances the f-pawn, supporting the central pawns and preparing for pawn breaks. Black moves the knight to a defensive maneuver aiming to solidify their position. White exchanges knights, simplifying the position and maintaining their advantage. Black recaptures with the king, accepting the doubled pawns but activating the monarch. White captures the pawn, opening lines but creating a less active pawn structure. Black recaptures with the pawn, maintaining the pawn structure. White checks the king with the knight, forcing a favorable king repositioning. Black moves the king, seeking safety and maintaining the game. White advances the c-pawn, improving pawn structure and controlling central space. Black moves the king, a critical error that leads to a decisive positional advantage for White. White moves the king to, centralizing and controlling key squares, solidifying the winning position. Black moves the king into danger, a severe blunder that allows White overwhelming dominance. White moves the king to a brilliant positional move that exploits Black's misplaced king and seals the victory. Black captures the bishop, a final mistake that worsens their already dire situation. White recaptures with the knight, dominating the board and creating an overwhelming winning advantage. Black moves the king, a futile attempt to survive in a lost position. White checks the king with the knight, maintaining absolute control and the decisive advantage. Black captures the pawn, a minor inaccuracy in a completely lost game. White captures the pawn with check, further crushing Black's position and maintaining the overwhelming advantage. Black moves the king, clinging to a lost cause. White moves the knight to a strong outpost, increasing White's crushing dominance. Black advances the e-pawn, a pointless move in a lost position. White captures the pawn with the knight, a brilliant move that wins more material and seals the victory. Black advances the e-pawn, a final mistake in a completely lost game. White moves the knight to, controlling key squares and preparing to overwhelm Black's defenses. Black moves the king, a desperate attempt to escape the inevitable. White advances the knight to a strong centralizing move, solidifying White's overwhelming advantage. Black moves the king, a final error in a lost position. White advances the c-pawn, an excellent strategic move that leads to a decisive advantage, overwhelming Black.